Hello and welcome to another Simply Live. You might be wondering, who the heck is this guy? Because he doesn't look like Tony or Raph. My name is Kyler Miles, and I am actually the man behind the camera. I am the content manager here at Simply PHP, and I'm taking over this live. So today I have an amazing panel of guests. We're going to be talking about the 5 essential skills that any web developer may need to either land a job, to work with other developers, and just develop their skill here in 2021. So without further ado, I don't want to talk too much here. I want to introduce the amazing guests that I have here. And without further ado, let's dive in and see who's going to be on the panel. First up, I'd like to introduce 2 of our leading developers here at Simply PHP, Chad and Nick. Chad, why don't you take the stage and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Hi, yes, I'm Chad. I'm from the Edmonton area in Alberta, so I've been with the company for almost a year now, and I was the second remote developer to join, and it's been a great time. And the nice thing is, living out here in the country, we don't have to go to Montreal or Toronto, so it's been a fantastic experience.
And can you tell us more about when you started at Simply PHP and what was the process like for you? Like, how was it when you first joined the team? Because you were, like you said, the first remote. Tell us more about that experience.
Yeah, it was great because Steve had introduced me to V, the leadership team. We had gone through, met Tony and Raph. There was a fantastic onboarding process. It was very detailed. Nick's developer guide was extremely helpful in actually getting, me on board with the culture and the processes and policies of the business as well. So for me, it was one of the best onboarding experiences I've ever had in my career. Very, very detailed. And like everyone was so engaging because, with Slack and with the pandemic going on, we were able to, hop on board, get into calls, meet basically everyone in the company in just 2 days. Things you can't do when you're in office because everyone's got competing schedules.
That's awesome. And before I let you go and start introducing our next guest, is there any type of odd or fun skill that you might want to share with the audience today?
As for you say skill?
Yeah, any fun or odd skill that you have that maybe not a lot of people know about and you want to share today.
Yeah, like in my spare time, I do digital art. And I've actually put that to use in development as well because it's let me take, especially with some projects, it's like, hey, here's a kind of a creative touch to kind of make things more interesting for users and the client. I love creative art, and I see a lot of use for it in business as well.
Yeah, the more I'm working with developers, the more I'm seeing how creative you guys are. There's so many musicians, so many artists here, so it's just an incredible field to be in. But let's move on, because I know we got 2 more guests that I wanted to introduce. Next up is another lead developer here. Has actually been from Simply PHP, I think 15 years. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been here quite long.
It has been a stretch. It's going to be 14 years in June.
I was close. I was very close. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your role and how you actually got started at Simply PHP.
Right. So I'm Montreal, born and raised, still living here, working here. Started with the company. Really, not one of my first jobs. Like I had a couple of web developer jobs beforehand. Some long stretches, some small contracts, but started with these guys as I would still consider myself a junior dev at the time and worked my way up. Just, gained experience through the years, gained knowledge, kept going with them. There's always an interesting project to work on here. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you, so what is it that makes you want to stay here for that long? Because, you don't hear that so often, 14 years. That's a really cool milestone. What made you want to stay on for so long? You talked about projects. Was there any really memorable project that you just absolutely loved?
Yeah, I mean, there's been, the good and the bad. The bad made me question why I stayed, but the good, keeps answering that question for me. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not due to NDAs and whatnot, but my current project's really cool. I've been working with these guys for a couple of years. What makes me want to stay is just it's mostly the company culture. It's through and through what it is Tony, Raf, our bosses, the owners, the other parts of the management team. Everyone's open. Everyone's engaging. Like even when I was just starting out, you were part of the team. Your ideas mattered, your opinions mattered. And it's that's like the main thing. And now, I've grown into a senior role here, I guess, and I'm able to. Hey, Raph.
We have a little surprise guest coming up behind me, checking on me right here. There's Raph right back there.
Yeah, no, totally. It's the culture, it's the people. It's everyone's open to ideas. Everything's up for discussion. And I think that's great. It gets a little harder sometimes when people are saying, "Oh, I can't talk to my boss," or "I can't talk to my manager," or "We can't change this." And, everything's a discussion. If something doesn't change in the end, at least there was a discussion behind it. Nothing's ever, do as I say.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And as you guys just saw, Raph was just peeking his head in. We have a lot of fun here. So it's just a great culture. But let's move on to the last guest I have, Miss V. I am so excited to introduce V. V, tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Hello, everyone. I'm V. So I'm the senior account / project manager at Simply PHP. I've been with the company for 2 years now. Time flies when you're having
Woo!
It's crazy. So I come from an operations background, operations / management background. Started my career back in Australia. Worked there in management, in processes, in recruitment for about 7 years, then moved back to Montreal and worked on web development project and some IT recruitments as well. And yeah, so I've been with Simply for the past 2 years. Passionate about productivity and also company culture, as being part of the management team is something that is extremely close to my heart, and they call me mom around here. So yeah, a little bit like Nick said, and Chad said as well, we are very closely knit. And it's crazy because even though now that we're working remotely, we managed to maintain a very a great company culture. That's I must say in all transparency that this was one of our fear, right? This was one of our first questions. How are we going to maintain our company culture? Mm-hmm. And we've been so lucky because, as Nick said, we listen to our people, and sometimes we do have some uncomfortable conversations, but I think that being a good manager, you have to be open to critiques, and especially that we work with a bunch of developers that are all problem solvers. It's important to listen to our people, and there's always room for improvement. So, yeah, this is one skill: being a good problem solver and open-minded. That's two right there.
Already diving into the essential skills. I love it. But V, what's so true is that you are the mom of Simply PHP. Not only are you there for our emotional support, you're there for our, support in our work and everyday life, and just like the productivity thing you talked about. When I looked at your calendar, I've never seen a busier calendar, a busier person, but you're so on it, you're so productive. So I'm happy that you're here because you're going to be giving a different perspective than, Nick and Chad will around web development and developers around the skills that you may be looking for. So super happy to have you all here. And without further ado, I want to dive into some questions here. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have my screen here. I want to see my lovely guests, make sure they're good, and some questions as well. So I'm going to be, glancing once or twice down here. But let's kick it off with some warm-up questions. And who am I going to pick? Maybe Nick. I feel like I'm good to pick on you. Right, Nick? Nick, you still there?
He's having some network issues.
All right. Chat it is.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, we'll go with Nick. So, Nick, I want to know, what was a common misconception that you learned first in your career that was false? What's something that you thought was true, and as you are going out throughout your career, a misconception that turned out to be false?
More experience means you're right.
Okay, can you explain that a little bit more, what you mean by that?
I'm naturally like a shy, kind of non-confrontational guy. So early in my career, it was just always like if somebody had more experience or had been there longer, I would always like defer to them. Even if I thought my idea was better or my solution was better, I would be like, oh, well, this guy knows more. He's been around longer, and I just accept it. And now that I'm more experienced in my career, I know I make mistakes. They happen all the time. Everybody does them. It doesn't, just because I've been doing it longer doesn't mean I'm right.
So what do you do to keep yourself on the ball, to making sure that you're always testing yourself, making sure, okay, I've done it this way before, but is there another way, a better way? Is there any tips or strategies that you do as a senior web developer that we can share with some of the developers listening right now?
One big thing is definitely have like a code review process. Like it always helps to have someone look at your code, and they might be like, hey, I saw you did this way, but there's some new functions and new features out that can reduce the complexity of your code. Maybe I hadn't heard about it yet, you haven't heard about it yet, or they've just done the same thing and realized there's a better way. Or if I just realize it's taking way too much time, or I'm doing things the way I know how to do them is too big and too complicated, I'll Google. Is there a simpler way to do this?
I love that. It's so true. Like we have access to this amazing thing called Google. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it is there to help us, right? So I'm so happy that you say that. Even at 14 years here at Simply PHP, you're still looking for support and others so that you can make sure this is the best process moving forward. So I think that's a really major tip for any web developers or developers in general listening right now. Well, good for anyone pretty much in any industry. You have to make sure that you are always reviewing your stuff, making sure that if there's any changes in the market, there might be a better or more efficient way. But speaking about changes, is there anything you're keeping an eye out right now in the market? Web development is such a changing industry. It's always innovating. Is there anything you're kind of keeping your eye out for, either a new process or new style? Walk me through what you're keeping an eye on in the market.
Well, basically, a lot of the work I do deals with, like, let's say Laravel and PHP. So kind of just keep up to date on what's coming up, new functionality and newer versions of PHP or upcoming versions, what's going on with Laravel. When a new version comes out, should we be upgrading right away? Does it help us if we upgrade right away? And that just spreads out into everything else, like, Docker, something I'm always trying to learn.
That's awesome. I want to actually pass the ball over to V, because she, as she said earlier, she's a senior account manager, project manager here at Simply PHP. So she has a different perspective from what she might be looking for in web development, and maybe what she's keeping an eye out. V, are you all like, do you subscribe to something to keep an eye out for the news, like maybe project management type stuff? Like, what are you keeping an eye out in the market? Like, how are you, continue to educate and be productive through your crazy schedule?
To be honest, I don't know. We've all heard of Google, but have you heard of YouTube? YouTube is a gold mine of information about productivity, and there's a lot of people, great people, and a lot of like philosophers as well that are on YouTube and are, they talk a lot about, productivity and how to stay, and time management as well. So I'm always on the lookout for new books to read as well. And I usually find all of my content on Audible. You write productivity, and then you just have like a bunch of of books that are available to you. So yes, I read a lot. I watch a lot of content on YouTube as well, and I always have a podcast or some type of audio books when I go on walks every day. So yeah, it really does keep me engaged, and really it does also make you think about how you work as well. And when I learn things about time management, I like to, share it with the devs as well, because time management is super important for a developer too, especially working on a project based, or if you work in sprints. Or you need to plan your week accordingly so you can present your deliverables at the end of the week. So yeah, this is pretty much my go-tos: Audibles, YouTube, and Google a lot. I do Google a lot too on blogs, and but I don't have, I don't have a place in particular. It's just me being curious and just getting my information through different mediums.
I love that. And for the 32 people listening right now to this live stream, comment below what you guys are using to continue to educate yourself. We obviously, YouTube and Google are the two biggest probably ones, but if you have a hidden gem, throw it in the comments. Let everyone know. Let's share some knowledge here. Let's help each other out in this amazing world of web development, and let's help each other through this. So comment below your secret resource for educating yourselves and keeping an eye out on the market. So let's dive into some of the essential skills. Chad, I haven't heard from you yet, so I'm going to pick on you. I want to get your opinion and to get you to walk me through what are the 5 essential skills that you believe, if you are hiring a developer, if you're looking to work with a developer, what skills would you be looking for? And let's walk through all 5.
Sure. So interpersonal skills would be huge. In the past, there were a lot of teams that were very self-contained, right? You would have a few developers who all got along, didn't really talk to anyone. But now you have a lot of freelancers. You have a lot of people working for companies or agencies where they're engaging directly with the end user. So you need someone who is able to get along with people. Their ego doesn't get in the way. They're happy to talk to them. It's hard talking to people. Sometimes they do, tempers do flare, but as long as someone is able to actually say, okay, I can sit down and I'll listen and I'll communicate what I need to say.
Also, so teamwork, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Like that falls in the same kind of branch, like people skills, that you're good collaborating, because you're probably not working by yourself. I know some might be, but working with a team, working with management, and so teamwork is a huge part of that. I would link with what you just said, people skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you really, you're going to be dealing with so many different kinds of people. So it's important to not get
do you find, Chad, that a lot of developers skip this step, when they're trying to become a web developer and going through maybe school or self-educating themselves? Is it something that you find a lot of developers lack?
In the past, I noticed it more than now. Now I know a lot more people who they're really about the teamwork. But I have talked to some, when you have the code camps, I've talked to some younger people, and they're asking for advice, and they're saying, well, I'm not working with anyone, I'm not talking to anyone, I'm just, I just want to be the best programmer or the best designer. And I'm like, that's not going to get you a job, because you're going to talk to someone and you're going to get into a conflict and you're not going to know how to deal with it. So you have to make sure you at least go out and talk to someone and say, hey, can you critique what I'm doing here, and vice versa. And once you're in a place where you don't, if you don't take it personally, if you are able to make the best of it, you're good.
I love that. I think that's such an important trait, and not even just for web developers, for anyone for that matter. You have to be able to work with a team, work with other people, and communicate, what it is that you're trying to do. So let's move on to number 2. Give me the number 2 essential skill, Chad.
So adaptability. Technology is changing. We have AI around the corner. I have an AI certificate. I've done 2 programs, and the way the technology changes is so sudden that someone who is kind of stuck in the past and they're saying, I've done it this way for 10 years or 5 years or even 3 years, that doesn't work. You have to be prepared to face the possibility that the thing you're doing today will be out of date tomorrow. You know, the products that people want, the features that people want will change. And it just takes, you know, one day, one company or one person says, I have created this amazing new thing. Everyone loves it. And everyone might be asking you, hey, do you work in this technology or this service? And maybe 2 weeks later, they'll say, you know what, that wasn't so good. Can you go back? But you have to be prepared to, for that possibility that things will change very quickly. And some projects, you know, you'll get enterprise that says, we're good. Well, we will keep doing things as we've always done. We're not changing versions. You know, we're fine for the next 2 years before we review.
Mm-hmm.
And you might get a project where they say, you know what, we're going to be, you know, in the edge of our seats. You're going to be making changes every week, and we don't know what people want. So get ready to just do something completely new tomorrow and throw it out the day after. So yeah, just be adaptable and willing to take risks.
And the perfect example of this is what happened last year in 2020. I mean, the whole world had to change and adapt. So, I mean, this is such a good thing that you mentioned, that this is adaptability. You have to be able to change your process, change how you work. This is not only just for web development, but this goes without saying. You need to be able to adapt and change, just like Chad said. So, what's number 3, Chad?
Being analytical, but not too analytical. So, you know, sitting down when you're looking at your work and you're saying you have a project, you have requirements, and being able to say, okay, I've been given this chart of requirements, but I'm not going to build exactly what I've been asked to. I'm going to study it. I'm going to review what they've given me. I'm going to take real examples from the business or the client, or it could be an individual as well. And, you know, make sure that everything is aligned, because the client doesn't always know what they want. They have a core end goal. They have something that they want to achieve, but maybe they have an opinion on where they want to go with it, but they don't know all the possibilities. So actually it's really 2 things. It's being analytical, it's being creative. You know, you make sure that you're giving them the best end product. You're telling them what they could be possible, what they haven't thought of. And then you're giving them the possibility of, hey, would you be willing to make a hard right turn and take a detour, because I think we can actually make this better while achieving your goal.
That's interesting. So when you were coming up with these, what was the thought process? Like, were you looking at, okay, this is what I'd be looking for if I was hiring a developer? Were you thinking about if I was just in general, like all web developers need this skill? Like, what was your thought process in coming up with these 5 essential skills?
Yeah, a bit of both, because I had a project once where they had a previous web developer that they didn't really analyze the requirements. They just took them as is. And when I got the project, the client said, well, they gave us what we wanted, but we have no customers. It went horribly, you know. And when we were looking at it, it was like, okay, what they hadn't considered is, you know, these requirements work from a business point of view. They didn't work from a technology or a design point of view. They hadn't really thought out how do we actually expand this beyond the limits we've been given. And so when working with a developer and when trying to hire them, it's, if I want a best success, I want to see someone who is going to ask questions. They are going to propose solutions, and they're going to think a little bit outside the box. They're not going to, just say, here you go. You asked for a square box that's white. I've given you a square box that's white. They're going to give me something that they say, I think people might appreciate this, hypothetically, they might appreciate this expert design here. This thing will get you your destination faster, even though it looks unique. It looks different than you expected.
Yeah, so true, eh? So true. And so that was 3 and 4, right, of the essential. Do you have one last one that you want to share, or did you kind of talk about it just now?
You know what? Be a little open-minded, right? So, like Nick said, you might be working for 15, 20 years, or you might have 1 year of experience, but there's so many possibilities in the market. There are things that we don't know. And the way that programming language is developed, there are dozens of ways of doing something, right? So being open-minded and being prepared for the possibility that not only are you wrong, but so are all the experts you talk to. You know, someone who's never looked at your project or never looked at your technology might have an insight where you can adapt it and kind of create a hybrid approach that will improve your workflow and, you know, improve things like security, user experience, you know, cut budget. The possibilities are endless depending on what the actual use case is.
Love that. Let's give Chad a round of applause. Thank you, Chad. That was so enlightening. I'm writing some notes down, actually, so that we can make sure we can talk about these topics and compare them with V and Nick, and to see just what all the different essential skills that we need. You know, we're talking about 5 ones from each of our guests' perspective, but there's a bunch, right? So at the end of this, we'll be looking at all of it together and sharing with you guys. So if you, who's listening right now, have another one that you want to throw out there, write it in the comments, guys. This is a community. We're trying to build this. So again, give us some tips, give us some advice that you've seen and skills that, you know, haven't been mentioned yet that you want to throw out there. But really quickly, I just want to talk about some of the comments I'm seeing on LinkedIn. And someone wrote that Twitter was actually a great resource to get educated on things. I think that's true. Like looking at the different news outlets and industries. So this is a great example as well. We have a couple different. All right. Oh, people are cheering. People are loving it. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for all the comments and love with everything that we're doing. My next guest I'm going to move forward is V. V, I've been seeing you nod your head in the Zoom meeting as Chad is saying his tips and his essential skills. So is there anything that really resonated with you from what Chad said?
Everything resonated with me, because even though, from another side of things, more on a management and operation side of things, you know, these skills are really what makes you shine in your work, right? Mm-hmm. So I do agree with everything that he said, being open-minded, creative, not being afraid, communicating, dropping the developer ego as well is a big one. But as Chad said, I don't think, I think things have evolved a lot over the years, and I think people now, especially at Simply, right? I mean, not everywhere, but I mean, if you make a mistake, people are not afraid to speak up, right? So, yeah. To answer your question, yes, I do resonate with everything that Chad said.
Chad, you did a great job. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. But yeah, V, you know, you have an interesting background. You come from recruiting. You've worked with a lot of different types of people. So what's different? You know, you said you resonated, and I don't know if you've written down any tips or essential skills that you're looking for, but from the perspective of a management and project management perspective, what kind of skills are you looking for in a web developer?
Right. So I need someone that is willing to be a team player. And I think that goes hand in hand with collaboration. When I first started with Simply, we had a lot of projects that only needed one developer to work on a specific project. And now over the years, I've seen that now we do have we've also, created the pod structure where we encourage our devs to talk amongst each other and to be a team player. So yes, you do have your own project, but if you're stuck, talk to your mate next to you, and you may come up with a different solution, right? So also we do have a development channel, which is also a gold mine of information. If you're stuck with something, you can drop a question there, and you're gonna have answers coming from the east to the west coast of Canada with different solutions, right? So
that's awesome.
So a team player is being a team player when you work on your own on your project, but it's also be involved in your community, because development, it's all about being a community, and we all have the same goal, right? We all want to succeed on our projects. We all want our clients to be happy. So get the help that you need by being a team player and raising your hand when you have a question.
I love that. And V, given that we're remote right now, right? We're living in a remote kind of world. How does a developer actually do that? Because before when we were in office, you could chime with your desk mate. Now remotely, is there anything in your opinion that Simply PHP has done or that you've seen works with, seeking that teamwork, that collaboration? Any kind of insight you can give us?
Yes, and I think that even Chad will be able to support me on that point. Is the more and more that we got into hiring more and more remote developers, especially for I always try to pair, because we have daily stand-ups, right? So we need to keep make sure that the projects are aligned. So you meet every day with a project manager. And then you kind of just do the normal stand-up. But what we did is for some new people starting with us, we're going to pair them with their pod leaders, or we're going to pair a developer with another developer that has been with Simply for quite some time, or that they have some relation in the project. So that way, that kind of just really does enhance communication. And you always have someone that you're not shy to ask questions to. Also, excuse me, another thing is that myself and our project success manager, Ryan, we really do encourage our people to, if you're stuck, you're probably alone at home and you don't know what to do, well, ping me. Sometimes, you just need to vent. Sometimes you just don't know.
Call mama. You gotta call mama.
There you go. And sometimes, I use, the yellow rubber duck analogy. Sometimes you just need to speak up to someone about your problem. And as you're saying it, the idea will come to you. So we really do we make ourselves available just to make sure that you don't feel stuck and to feel that you have that support system in order to make you successful on the task at hand.
So for you guys listening, go look in forums, go look on Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, connect with us at Simply PHP. We're very active on social media, and we can be your community. We can be the people you collaborate with. So feel free to send us a message, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And comment below if you want to join, type of community like V is talking about. I mean, we're all here to help each other and to grow this amazing industry. So love everything you're saying, V. You're awesome. Let's move on. So I guess we're still on number 1, eh?
Yes.
Okay. But this is good, V. Honestly, this is good because we have a lot of people chiming in, and these are really great tips that a lot of developers can take, junior and senior, right? We heard from Chad, we heard from Nick about how you always need to be looking at your process, looking to change, looking for collaboration. There might be something that you can learn. So this is just, it's going very, very well. So thank you guys for coming and to tuning in to the audience. But V, let's go on to number 2 that you have down.
Right. So I think to follow being a team player, you need to be accountable, to stay accountable. So what I mean by that is if you have your daily stand-up with your project manager.
So are you standing up in those meetings? Are you actually standing
I
up?
used to. And then now we have hired a project success manager that looks after all of our internal micro sprints that we call them.
So very nice, very nice.
So in bigger companies, they're going to be working in, different sprint setup. But for us, because we have to be so flexible, and that is my third point. A
little highlight.
Yes. We have to be flexible, but number 2, we have to be accountable. So if you're telling us that you're planning to do this and that today, feature 1 and feature 2, well, at the end of the day, my expectation is that you will have completed feature 1 and feature 2. If you haven't, because things happen, right? Maybe you hit a wall and you're stuck on something, and it's like 4 p.m. and you thought it was going to take 30 minutes, and then no, you realize that you open a can of worm and oh wow, it's going to take me a full day. Well, you need to stay accountable by letting us know that, you know, there will be some delay in some, you know, in your delivery. But what I mean by that is when you tell someone, okay, when you tell your PM or your team lead or whoever you're working with, you set the expectation that you will deliver something. Well, you have to live up to that, or you have to provide a clear explanation as to why you weren't able to deliver that goal. And then, you know, that, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, I love interrupting. But I was just going to say that, you know, it chimes in again with collaboration and teamwork, is that if a problem does come up, which it does, it happens. Like Nick said earlier, like even he's 14 years, he still makes mistakes. We're all human. You have to be able to collaborate and communicate that with your team. Either with your PM, your management, your counterpart, just explain the situation, right? Because if anyone has a reasonable mind, they should know that, hey, listen, it's okay. Like, let's work this out, right? So I love that you're bringing this up, because these are all, again, essential skills for developers, for you guys to have success in your fields, have, you know, go up in your company and be a leader if that's what you want to do. These are all essential skills for you guys. So V, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to chime in for a sec.
You're right. So I think that sums it up well.
So we did teamwork, collaborations one, accountability and flexibility. Is there any more we want to touch on before we move over to Mr. Nick?
Sure thing. Quickly, I think that time management is extremely important, and that kind of just can be sucked in the other one. Time, you need to be able to plan your day properly, and also think of what if it goes wrong, something goes wrong. And I think it goes hand in hand with, you know, being analytical, where you instead of rushing into a task, to take a step back, analyze the task, see what everything it touches in the engineering of the application, take a deep breath, ask yourself, did I understand this correctly? And then move forward. And that has to be included in your, you know, time management. You have to think also of the what if. So, and that also goes hand in hand with being accountable, because if you do your time management properly, you'll be able to stay accountable by providing the right estimate to the person that you report to.
Look at that. They're all linking together, guys. I'm
full
seeing
circle,
something.
full circle.
I think that's also setting the right expectations,
yes,
right?
That's
so
right.
Again, to summarize what you're saying is when you're analyzing it and and you're looking at the what if scenarios, you're setting the right expectation. I expect it to take this long, but knowing that, because it always happens, or not always, but it does happen, that you can get in and something unexpected, unknowns come up. So this is very, very important. Setting the right expectations, being a team player, collaborating. And, you know, you notice that a lot of these are not talking about development per se. They're all around teamwork and the thought process of communication, and there's interesting links here. So I like where this is going, and I'm excited to hear what Nick has to say. He might have a different spin on it or a similar spin. But V, before I move on, is there anything else you want to leave us with? Any last tip that you might have?
Don't be afraid and go for it.
Like a true mom. You really are the mom of Simply PHP. We need to get you like a mom tag sticker or something. I don't know. Thank you so much, V. I really appreciate all the advice. Nick, you're up, buddy. Is the Wi-Fi okay?
Yeah, it seems to be going good.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Great answers from Chad and V. Feel like, you know, they looked at my notes and stole my answers.
That's okay. You know, Nick, like, even if it's the same, like, this just goes to show that these are really the true five, right? These are, and we can talk about that at the end of this. Like, okay, we talked a lot about, I have already 10 different ones with some of them similarities, but we'll come together and say, okay, what do we think is the true five, right? So, Nick, do you have any, a first tip? It could be number 1, number 5, whatever you want to do.
I mean, it kind of goes along like with the creativity one. You got to have like a good problem solving skills, because when you're building web applications, a lot of the simple features is just always like login, authentication, showing the records in a table. It's all straightforward stuff. But when you start going into like the more complicated stuff, or more advanced features, that's where you need like a problem solving solution. Like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to handle this? How are we going to take care of like all the different aspects and use cases of it? And that kind of goes along with the analytical mind Chad mentioned, and the creativity is obviously how you solve that problem and how you implement your solution. I mean, you can have really ugly code that does what you want to do, but it just takes forever to do it, and it's just so many lines of code. Or you can have like a really elegant solution, and there's no other way to put it, but like, when something is coded well and you have an elegant solution and the code is clean and it's done well, it's poetry. It's like poetry.
You heard it from Nick first. Code is poetry. Love it.
Like when you can sit back and look at it, and it's like that Antonio Banderas gif where he just leans back and he's like, and I've done like code review going like, oh my God, I would never think of having done it that way. This guy is just like, he went for it and he did it.
So what are some questions that a developer could ask themselves to better problem solve? Like you said, right? Like you said a lot of how do I do this? How can I make it better? Is there any questions you can think of that we could put into practice to be a better problem solver and be more creative with our solution?
Like that's how it's one of the skills, because different people approach it differently. Some people jump right in, start coding right away, and then like figure out the other stuff. I'm more of a like, I try to figure out all the scenarios first and ask us like a million questions, and you can go ask Raph, and I've probably made his head explode. Like every time he's got something, he's like, Nick, I got a small little feature I want you to do, and I'll just give him a list of questions like, but what about this? But what about this? But what about that? And like that's what I like to do. I like to get as much detail as I can right away so I can plan everything. And once you're in the code, it's, are you writing code that's using your resources the most efficiently? Are you using the tools of, if you're using a framework, are you using tools in the framework most efficiently? Or are you writing like a lot of custom code that just quote unquote reinvents the wheel? Like if the heavy lifting's already done for you and you just need to implement stuff, do that. Don't write 50 lines of code that'll do the same thing that already exists.
I like what you said, and I'm going to say a quote that was actually quoted on this podcast, on this live stream, not today, previously, that 70% of the job, the work that a developer does is all in their head. It's all the thinking process. And then 30% is actually the writing of the code. So I don't know if you guys agree with this, people in the audience, people on the Zoom call right now. If you guys agree with this, give us a thumbs up in the comments. Let us know if you agree that developers, 70% up here, 30% down here. So Nick just illustrated that, just talked about that. He looks at all the different scenarios before actually moving forward to writing code. And it could be, a different process for you, but this is something that a 14-year vet is doing right now. So you might want to take it,
That's what works for me.
It's perfect. So
you also got to know what works for you.
Is that number 2? Is that number 2?
Flexibility. You got to know, like, not everyone does things the same way, and you got to understand that not everybody does things the same way. So you got to be flexible in that different people have different processes. And willing to adapt. As like everyone said, a little over a year ago, everyone's world got turned upside down. Just in the way we work, in the way we communicate, in the way we develop. You got to be flexible. You got to adapt. You got to
gotta roll with the punches. Really, you gotta roll with the
I'm gonna
punches.
be the first to admit, before starting work from home all the time and everything happened, I wasn't a fan of work from home. I never did it. I always felt I'd never be productive if I worked from home. Uh, I didn't have like a good office space. Even when the pandemic started and I started working from home, it was like I had a small desk in a corner of like an extra room. It wasn't exactly a home office, but
Mm-hmm.
I adapted, and I find I'm more productive now.
I love it. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? And as you said, going back to all the different tips that V said and Chad said, there's so many commonalities here. It's that you have to be able to adapt to the situation, roll with the punches. Really, is that you can't always have the perfect scenario. Another thing quoted on this podcast. You can tell I managed this podcast because I remember all these quotes that what you learn in school, I'm not a developer, this is a quote. What you learn in school is that you can make perfect code, but what I'm realizing, and maybe you guys can chime in, Chad and Nick, is that it doesn't always work that way in the real world. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that goes with the flexibility. We've had, I've worked with new devs out of school, fresh degrees, going, well, this isn't what they taught us. And I'm like, dude, you gotta bend a little. This is legacy code. It's an existing application. You can't rewrite it with, the perfect theory version of the code. You gotta be able to bend a little. You gotta be able, I know it's not pretty. I know sometimes it's hard to swallow, but
maybe we should develop a school, Simply Educator, Simply School. Let us know if you want us to do that. Just let us know in the comments. Just a little hint. Raph and Tony don't know it. I'm just going off this call right here. So awesome. So Nick, any more essential tips? We talked about 2, I think 3 in there. Is there any more kind of skills that you want to mention?
The 2 major ones, and V kind of hit up on them already, are accountability, and it goes hand in hand with humility. I've put the ego aside. You don't know everything. You're not the best at everything. You can be really good, and that's awesome, but somebody might know something better. And I've just run into it way too often where somebody's like, no, I've been doing it longer and I know this, and I'm the guru, or I'm the ninja, or I'm the, like, throw away all those cute names all you want. Like, no. And that goes hand in hand with the accountability. Like, sometimes mistakes happen, sometimes bugs happen. And too many times I've seen people or a team waste time tracking down the error because one guy couldn't let go of his ego and be held accountable and say, hey, I may have introduced a bug. It was, no, my code's perfect. It couldn't be mine. And like, dude, I saw one guy totally make another developer lose a week's worth of work because of something he was doing with Git, and he screwed up the guy's local Git repo, and it took us a day to recover everything. But
like V said,
like, no, I know
you gotta
what
let
I'm
go
doing.
of the
He was
ego.
like, oh, it must have been something you did.
Yeah. Blame the blame game, and like V said, you gotta let go of the ego. You gotta be able to acknowledge that maybe you made a mistake or you missed something. We're human,
Yeah, you can. You know what? Play the blame game all you want. After it's fixed, you can. It's still not a good look for anyone when you're pointing fingers, but point fingers after everything's fixed, when it's working again, and then we can have a post-mortem, we can have a retro, we can do whatever you want, and we'll talk about it. But dude, when you're fixing the problem or like the bug's there, and like especially if it made it to production and the client's depending on it, just egos out the door, everybody all hands on deck. What could this happen? Could it have happened here? Could this be it? Could you have accidentally introduced something?
So we're coming up in the 50-minute mark. And what I want to do here for the last few minutes of this live stream is we've talked about all these different essential skills. And for my lovely guests are on, I wonder if we can all get together. We're all on the same call right now. We're all on Zoom. And we can talk about any any of the essential skills that maybe Chad said, V, do you agree with or disagree with? Let's collaborate and let's come up with the top 5, because that's what this is all about, the top 5. And I want to know from all 4 of us what we believe that would be it. Is there, Chad, do you have, from hearing what Nick and V said, do you still go with your number 1? Do you want to change it? Like, what's your thought around that?
I would say the accountability is really number 1 for sure. And the accountability does lead into, humility as well, because you need to be prepared to say, I was wrong, or things need to be done a little bit differently, whichever, and then making sure that you're actually delivering and not hiding or lying to protect a mistake.
Thoughts from the other panel?
Yep. Totally right. I'm on board with that.
That was an easy one. So we're all cool with saying accountability and being humble as a number one collective. I'm seeing a bunch of head nods, so you guys don't see in the audience. So I want to go with that right now. All right, Nick, from what V and Chad said, what would be your number 2? I want to know, again, I want to end this off with the 5. What would be your number 2?
I don't know which of my 5 I take out, but I definitely throw in teamwork. It's just, like, even if you know how to do everything from A to Z, when you're in an organization or a bigger company, you're going to end up working with people who have different tasks. You're going to have your sysadmins managing the servers. You might have designers making the designs. You're no longer going to be doing everything from A to Z. So you need to be able to work with the people who are doing, A through F, and then G through M, and N through Z,
So teamwork and collaboration is what I hear in that kind of together. And V, do you agree? Chad, do you agree? Disagree? Thoughts?
Yep, I agree.
Well, you guys are tired. I can tell. We're getting to the end of this here. So we're going to get through this real quick. We're going to get through this, guys. We're almost there. So, V, I want to know what's your number 3 spot? What's number 3?
Being flexible and open-minded, because you never know the unknown that the next challenge that you're going to face. So not only like on your projects, with clients, with your teammates, you have to be flexible and open-minded.
I'm going to guess you guys all agree with that.
Absolutely.
A bunch of more head nods. Good. All right, Chad, what's number 4? Give us number 4.
I would go with the adaptability, just because technology is changing, society is changing, and we saw that in 2020. There were so many companies and services just caught completely off guard, where we've been talking for years. You've got it, tomorrow's it's a mobile future. It's a mobile future right now, and then it came. We're not mobile. We can't do it.
Yeah, 100% right. 100% right. All right, team, just give me a head nod because I can see you on the Zoom. Head nod.
No, I want to say something.
Okay.
I think that
Go ahead.
being analytical should come before being adaptable.
This is what I was hoping for. Thank you, V.
I can concede.
Sorry, what?
We missed what you said, Chad.
Oh, I can concede.
So we're going to change that.
I was all like, all right, discussion. I can say.
So do you guys want to change that then to what V suggested? We can do we can do adaptability and something, right? It can be 2 of them.
Well, you could do it side by side, tied for 4, in the sense that you need to be analytical, but you need to be adaptable, because while you're analyzing the requirements, you're needing to understand what's going on in the world, in your project, in your workplace, and then you need to adapt to the changes. So, and maybe you find out, I have just realized that there is a huge oversight in this. We need to adapt the project.
That's good. All right, team. Give me a
I've got
thumbs
a
up or
question.
head nod. Oh, go ahead.
Well, first let's do the thumbs up or the head nod for number 4. I got a question for 5.
All right, I'm getting triple thumbs up here. I'm gonna write it down, and then go ahead, Nick.
We didn't mention being able to program as any essential skills.
We're talking about soft skills, I think. It really turned into a soft skill meeting, or not meeting, presentation.
Well, this could be. We got one more slot left, guys. Number 5. So, what do we want to put for number 5?
Learn to code.
There you go, learn to code.
I think at the end of the day, I think it's given. You need to learn. You need to know how to code. But kind of
So
to
no
what Nick
easy way
said.
out on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, follow learn how to code and follow best practice as well.
Read documentation.
Yes.
We're throwing so
This
many
is
out
another
there.
conversation going on there.
I threw in a bunch out of left field. It's
Well, let's ask our viewers, what is the last one? What is the last essential skill that you guys believe that we missed? Comment below what we missed. Let us know what you think is the 5 essential skills. You know, this is our opinion. This is what we believe, what we see every single day. But we want to hear from you. So go ahead and comment. But I'm going to throw one more thing in the ring for expectation. That's another good one that we talked about earlier, saying the right expectation. But what I'm hearing from you guys is number 5 is best practices, follow best practices, which, you know, aligns with everything we're talking about. And obviously programming. You got to know how to code. But what do you guys think of putting that down for number 5?
yeah.
Again, a lot of head nods. This is where we're going to end the live stream now. Thank you guys all for chiming in. This was an awesome. We are 58 minutes. Wow. I can't believe time flies. But thank you guys for tuning in to this live stream. Thank you so much for commenting. I know there's a bunch of comments, and I'm going to have to dive in after this live stream and make sure I reply to all of you. So thank you. And also thank you to our amazing guests for, you know, sticking here and going through this, Q&A session, and I've been drilling you. So thank you guys. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you, awesome guests. So without further ado, thank you guys for coming again to our live stream and listening to this podcast. My name is Kyler Miles. I'm the content manager here. And who knows, if you guys like this format, maybe we can do it again. Again, you know the drill. Comment below. Let us know. But thank you guys. We got to go eat. We got to go back to work. So see ya.